Warm shower this evening, some rain late tonight, low 63. Cloudy, breezy, not as warm, shower and a thunderstorm for tomorrow, the high 66. But those temperatures fall into the 40s. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
55 at O'Hare. Next news, 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Make sure to check out the Income Store live video stream of today's show right now at 560theanswer.com.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. Vice President Mike Pence was in Iowa doing his vice president's duties in support of the president's policy agenda and calling on the House to take up something other than impeachment.
I came to Iowa today to say it's time for the Democrats in Congress to do their job, put politics aside, and pass the USMCA this year. The truth is, and we all know it, Democrats have been spending all their time on endless investigations and a partisan impeachment. But enough is enough. The American people deserve better.
Well, they're not going to get better. That's at least according to Dan Henninger in the Wall Street Journal, and I agree with him. Here's how he suggests the next 13 months will go in terms of the competing arguments. Mr. Trump has begun to make his argument at his rallies. You may not like me, he says, but you're going to have to vote for me to save your 401k against Ms. Warren, whose plans are virtually alien to the idea of economic growth. This is a plausible strategy. It's me or the deep blue sea. For Democrats, impeaching Trump is just one big bomb and a larger strategy for the long march back to power next year. Their plan is to make the country's political life so intolerable that the American people simply run up the white flag on the Trump presidency no mas. They're looking at the 10 to 15% that are less committed either way, in the expectation these voters will decide that making accommodations between policy and personality has become impossible, and that 4 more years of this would be too much to endure, even accepting 401k losses as the price of deliverance. For more on this topic, we're pleased to be joined again by Grover Norquist, President of Americans for Tax Reform. Grover, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Great to be with you.
So what do you say to Henninger's formulation in terms of what Trump is attempting to do? You may not like me, but look at how you're doing financially. And the Democrats, you might be doing well financially, but we're just going to beat this drum until you submit and say, we got to make a change.
Well, I think the president's position is correct. There are 100 million people with 401ks, IRAs, lifetime savings. Every plan that Elizabeth Warren or Biden, well, he's not any different than Warren. She's just been more explicit about all the taxes she plans to raise. And Bernie Sanders and all the other Democrats, they all plan a war on your 401k, on lifetime savings. When they talk about a wealth tax, that just means everything you've saved during your life. That's wealth, okay? That is your wealth. And they want to tax your income, your wealth, your savings, your 401k. They've been putting some radical ideas about basically confiscating your 401k, like it was an AR-15 gun that they want to confiscate, and folding it into something else, like Social Security, and taking your money to pay off Social Security's debts. They did this in Argentina. It didn't work out very well, but the left is in power, so it worked out well for that. If that's your goal. This is going to be a debate about the direction of the country. Do you want a Supreme Court that actually reads the Constitution or one that makes it up as you go along? Trump and the Republicans have been restoring rule of law in the Supreme Court. The lower taxes have given us the growth we're looking at. And, the census data, which was just recently looked at, in the 2.5 years of the Trump presidency, we have seen the median household income, the absolute middle household income, half more, half less, go up by 4,000 votes up to $65,000. That's an increase of $4,000 each year in 2.5 years. During the 16 years of Trump and Obama, it went up by $1,000. So in 2.5 years, Trump and the Republicans have moved the middle income, not the richest, not the poorest, the middle income American household up $4,000, 4 times as much, a little more than $4,000, 4 times as much as the previous 16 years. That's why middle income people were so grumpy in the election in 2016. There's a good reason to be grumpy. If you go 16 years without seeing middle incomes increase more than $1,000. So that's where we are now. The challenge is, of course, that the more the Democrats threaten the economy with higher taxes, the weaker the growth is. And then they can say, see, growth has slowed down. But as the president does better in the polls, you'll see the economy do better. I do think it's important we come to an agreement with China that would be helpful to farmers and everyone else. Certainly the Canadian, Mexican, American free trade zone, the improvement on NAFTA, is very helpful to American farmers and all exporters.
Well, today's the 13th round of trade talks with China, and Trump says that China does want to make a deal, and he's pushed back raising tariffs yet again. Do you see something happening this time around?
I think it's very possible. This has gone on for a long time. Pain has been inflicted on both sides. The president's quite right that we cannot continue to have China stealing our intellectual property in the way they have been. They have not dealt fairly with us. I don't suppose we solve all of our problems with China in one agreement, but I would take every step forward that allows us. The stronger we get economically, the more clout we have in negotiating with China.
When it comes to the spend side, the Trump record is decidedly unfiscally conservative. Would it be helpful for the president to acknowledge some of the things he hasn't been able to do, some of the things he hasn't focused on, some of the things he hasn't pressed the Democrats on, just in terms of, burnishing his credential as somebody who is authentic, somebody who is not a politician, the fact that you own things that you didn't accomplish, you own the sort of spending that's not consistent with shrinking the size of government and making additional room for private sector investment?
Well, it's simply true that when he lost control of the House, he lost control of the ability to manage the budget, just as when Obama lost control of the House. He couldn't get the tax increases he wanted, couldn't get the spending increases he wanted, because all you have to do is hold the House, the Senate, or the presidency, and you have a lot of power. The House and the Senate being more powerful than the president on all budget matters. Had we not lost that Senate seat in Alabama, they were going to do entitlement reform, and you would have seen significant long-term savings. We need a Republican Senate, a Republican House, and a president, and we can get those savings. That was a real missed opportunity. The people of Alabama have got a lot to answer for.
You think there's real interest, there's real appetite for taking on entitlements if you were to see a Trump reelected and somehow the Republicans take back the House?
Oh, absolutely. They were going to do it in year 2. That was the plan. That was the goal. Get the tax cut, repeal. Well, we got undercut by McCain, who promised to vote to repeal Obamacare, which would have been $1 trillion tax cut, by the way, in a decade, $1 trillion tax cut. And of course, it's a massive producer of deficits and debt in the out years. It spends much, much more money than it ever raises in taxes, even though it does a lot of both. That was devastating to us, and that's John McCain's legacy to America, just because he wanted to be mean to Trump. Very sad, but very expensive decision by Senator McCain. And then we lost that Senate seat in Alabama. I was in the White House talking to people; they were all set to go, but when we didn't have that extra vote, you just couldn't get it across the finish line. But you're quite right. The president needs to point out that what he has said: we don't have to touch Medicare and Social Security, those you pay into, but all of the welfare programs that people don't pay anything into, but get, those have to be block granted out to the states, just as Clinton did with aid to families with dependent children. We've seen it work. 50 states are less stupid than one federal government. in how they deal with handling their own state's issues.
Are you advising and counseling the president to maintain some message discipline about framing 2020 as sort of a capitalism versus socialism, markets versus central planning choice for the voters?
Yeah, I think the president's made it clear he's going to be talking a lot about your life savings, your 401k, your IRA. There's 100 million people with a 401k, IRA. That is the vast majority of Americans. And when Elizabeth Warren says she's going to go after the 1%, she's missing two digits. She's going after 100% of Americans with those tax increases, because if you don't have savings, you don't have new businesses. And the people who do the savings, 100 million Americans who are doing that, if you strip their savings, one, you damage them, but you also damage the ability of everybody else to work. We don't have, the story. There are more jobs in the United States looking for people than there are people in the workforce. That is incredible progress.
He is Grover Norquist, president of Americans for Tax Reform. Check out his latest piece at foxbusiness.com. Middle-class Americans faring better than ever during Trump presidency, which he was just describing when he talked about the median household income. Grover, thanks so much for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy on the AM 560 The Answer mobile app. Just text the word app to 64636 to download the app today.
This is Dan Frio with the Mortgage Update. The Fed did it again and helped push mortgage rates to yet another historic low. So are you holding off refinancing your home because you think rates may go even lower? Well, let me make your decision even easier. Let's refinance you now and take advantage of this opportunity. If rates drop more than 0.5% in the next 24 months,